there, friends. Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project. And this is Huck. And she's been running around like a crazy girl, haven't you? Yeah, having some fun. And this is her channel, Huck TV. How you doing today, Huck? Being a good girl, running around crazy, huh? Yeah, you're a good girl. Oh, that's a good girl. Oh, yeah. Do you know how many of your friends are watching right now? And there's actually kitties and other dogs watching you right now, too. Yeah, you got a big fan base there, girl. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know you. Big yawn. Big yawn. All right. Okay. Thanks for being here, folks. You are greatly appreciated. Huck loves the fan base. Cares about you guys a lot. So thank you. And got one of my old hats on today. No, we don't sell these. We ran out of them probably 2 years ago. A couple of things that are going on real quick is that we're within days of this being over. And we're way short right now. And we need help. Missing 411 National Parks movie. Go to Kickstarter.com. As of right now, we're not there. And I don't know. I don't know what to say. This is a much harder drive than the first one. We did this, Ben actually did this with the first movie. Crowdfunded it. And we got it quick. This one we're not. So I'm a little astounded that, as I've stated, if everybody watching kicked in $5, we'd make it. But I mean, 30,000 people, $5, that'd be 150,000. We'd get there. We need 144,000. So, and this will be our biggest movie yet. I've already written it up, mapped it out, and we've got the people lined up to do it. It'll be big, really big. So I hope you can find a way to contribute. It would be greatly appreciated. And don't forget too, we have over 750 videos right here, free for you to watch. I don't charge anything. And you can watch my movies on Amazon. Missing 411, Missing 411, the UFO Connection are there right now on Amazon. If you have Apple TV, they're free on Apple TV. So you can watch them all. So I'm giving you the movies. I'm giving you the videos. You guys are great. Now, the case today, everybody knows that one of the last cases I ever worked was the Paulides case. Myself and another detective were called up from San Jose to go up there and work it. And Paulides, a young girl, Northern California, taken out of her home in the middle of the night and later found killed by Richard Allen Harris. I'm not going to say anything more about it because it just breaks me up, but I know this area of Northern California very well because I took Highway 101 north from San Francisco every week when I went to Hoopa. 100, 200 times I drove it. And this case is from that area. This is from Napa. People in California know Napa well, the wine country. It's a beautiful city. Been there many times. I like it. I'm not a big wine drinker, but I went with other people who like to drink, and I was a designated driver, so that was good. But this case has to do with a girl named Dorene Hedgpeth, 5 years old, went missing March 25th, 1963. She was born in Novato, California, September 24th, 1957. I know a lot of you like to follow dates because that's important. She was a kindergarten student at Lincoln Elementary in Napa. The family lived in downtown Napa, and she was one of 9 children to Mr. and Mrs. Hedgpeth. And the kids ranged from 17 years to 5 months. Now, this is a picture of the family about the time that Dorene disappeared. So that's Dorene right here. And the rest of the kids. Oldest one was 17 years old. You're going to hear about this 17-year-old boy and his 14-year-old brother in a minute. But the family looked after each other, babysat each other. Their dad was a shoe salesman. Their residence was at a place called 2309 Main Street in Napa. Home's still there. Population in Napa at the time, 43,000 people. It was a good-sized city. Now, on March 25th, when this happened, I've stated this to you before, and you guys doubt me. Mr. Hedgpeth was not home. He was in Napa. Well, that's pretty unusual, Dave, because you say a lot of times that the man in the house isn't home when these things happen. That's correct. Well, at about 4 o'clock on March 25th, there was a lot going on around the Hedgpeth home. Dorene asked her mom if she could go see a friend who she goes to school with named Linda Ford. And Mrs. Hedgpeth didn't know Linda, but assumed since it was kindergarten that it wouldn't be that far of a walk for her. And she said, yeah, you can go ahead and visit, just don't be too long. And that was the first time that Mrs. Hedgpeth ever allowed her daughter to go off the block anywhere. So Dorene was excited. She runs off to Linda's house. She does get there, and they play for about 45 minutes. At about 4:45, Linda said that she went with Dorene to the corner of the block where she lived and watched Dorene take off towards her house. At 5:30, Mrs. Hedgpeth started looking for Dorene and getting nervous. She found out through other kids where Linda lived, checked there, found out she left, walked the route, got super nervous, as any parent would. And at 7:15 p.m. that night, Mrs. Hedgpeth called the Napa police. This is a map today of what that area looks like. So Linda Ford's house was right here, and Dorene's home was right here. Distance, point to point, 0.8 miles, and people have said it's 5 blocks. Napa High School is right here. There's some businesses in this area, but again, this doesn't represent what it was when this happened. Now, for the people who don't know, just on the perimeter of Napa is the Napa River. The river can get pretty big at times, especially in the winter when it starts to flood every year. And there's no real barriers from the city to get to the river. I mean, there's no big fences or anything. You can walk right up there. Well, Mrs. Hedgpeth is interviewed by the Napa police, and she said, I didn't realize that it was that far to Linda's house. Otherwise, I would have never let my daughter go there. I just assumed it was close by, because this is the first time I let her go anywhere. So Napa realized this was a real issue, and they got their entire department on it quickly. And they notified the sheriff in the county that they needed assistance. They got a bloodhound there pretty quick to Linda's house. And the dog tracked from Linda's house to Dorene's house. My theory on that is that Dorene walked from her house to Linda's house and the dog backtracked on the scent. Just a guess. They had 15 deputies and 16 city police officers that they called in and were working, and they worked all the way through the night. Non-stop. Now, if I tell you this, you've got to believe me. I know some people think really bad things about police. I don't really care what you think then, because you really don't know. I've been around police in these type of instances. There's no motivation needed. You can work 24 hours straight and you wouldn't even know 24 hours went by, because you're doing the most important work in your career right at this juncture. You're looking for somebody who is the purest of pure, a little girl. And time is of the essence. Now, the next day, March 26th, this would be the first full day of the search. The chief of Napa did a lot of right things on this case, and I don't say that very often, but in 1963, there wasn't really a lot done right on these cases, but he was doing a lot right. He got a helicopter from Hamilton Air Force Base. They requested it the night before. And they were searching the 3 square mile area on the north end of town where this happened. And they had 30 law enforcement officers searching the town and the river. They brought detectives in and they were interviewing people along the route that Dorene would have walked. They had everybody engaged. The town knew what was happening. That night, the orders were, we're going to search all the way through the night. We're not stopping. And we're going to keep knocking on doors all the way through the night. If we disturb people, too bad. And like with everything else, the police tend to think that she went to the water. It seems like that's a common thing every time on one of these. And they started to request scuba divers for the Napa River to search. Now the Heskets, remember they have 9 kids in the family. Dad's not home. He's coming home. But the 14-year-old brother stayed home from school that day just to help answer questions from all the police and investigators, because Mrs. Heskett had kids to take care of. And then they also had the 17-year-old stay up from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m. in the house with searchers, with other people, to answer questions and help with the search. All hands on board, folks. This was one of the biggest things that ever happened in Napa's history. March 27th. Homes along the route were being searched by the police. And I know some of you will say, wow, they have a search warrant? You'd be surprised, folks. I've done these before. And when you go up to somebody's house, you say, hey, we have a small child that's missing. We want to clear your house and not have it even be on our radar. Would you mind if we come in and search your backyard and your home? Personally, I've never had anybody say no. And if people are hesitant, I say, hey, if I see weed or something on your table, I don't even care. Really, I don't care. I'm looking for a child. This is back in the day when weed was illegal in California. So, yeah, people are very, very engaging on this, in these issues. So they have the helicopter up in the air, still searching. Rain started to fall on the search at this time. They had 50 searchers from the sheriff's office and from Napa police, and 10 detectives working the case. They made contact at the high school, local businesses, They walked the streets asking people, hey, at 4:45 yesterday, did you see anything unusual? Blah, blah, blah. Nothing. They got nothing. March 28th. The Napa chief, his name was Sherwood Monk, had a press conference, first one he had. And he said, there is so little information that we have to believe she was kidnapped. That day, Dorene's father was arriving by train from Nebraska. The chief said he believed that Dorene was probably picked up by a car, but there were lots of people on the street between 4:45 and 5 o'clock in Napa downtown. There's people everywhere. The chief said that he called the FBI and requested their assistance that morning, the 28th. He also got 125 airmen from Travis Air Force Base to arrive that afternoon to help on the search. Rivers were being searched. The Napa River was being searched by a sheriff's office dive team. And the sheriff said that Mrs. Heskett said that of her 9 kids, Dorene was the most outgoing. But she also had a ton of common sense. She said she'd never get in a car with somebody. Good to know. So, March 29th, 1,000 searchers, 70 scuba divers searching the rivers. FBI came back and stated that they can't enter the case until there's more evidence of a crime. I will tell you this. Since Dorene's case, FBI protocol changed. Thank goodness. And now, anytime that they're requested to come in on a child case, they come in. The sooner, the better. The FBI does a lot of things bad, but they do some things real good. I've said many times that their child abduction task force is the best of the best. If it had been my child that was abducted, I'd want them there first. Just because I know the quality of the people that are working those cases. They also got 150 soldiers from Hamilton Air Force Base, 80 soldiers from Fort Baker in San Francisco, and 230 airmen now were arriving from Travis. A local radio station called KVON got up $3,900 from local community members as a reward. And then they moved the search headquarters from the Heskett home to the National Guard Armory in town, and they said it was raining heavily. Kind of weird the way the weather always turns on this, doesn't it? As I was writing this up, I was trying to think, what else could the chief have done that he wasn't doing? And honestly, I don't know. He was hitting everyone I would have done. March 30th. In total, 3,000 searchers were walking through town, out of town, 10 square miles through town, 100 square miles around town, going through woods, fields, trails. Everything was being walked and flown by helicopter. And Marvin, the dad, arrived that day at the headquarters at the armory. And then the press figured this out, that prior to the family moving to Napa in 1960, Mrs. Heskett was Novato's, where they lived, Mom of the Year. Just a little bit of tidbit. Yeah, with as many kids as she had, she should have gotten that. Mom of the Century. The Napa chief said that investigators were looking for anyone who saw Dorene after 5 p.m. in the city of Napa. Or anywhere. He also stated that some of the divers were getting pulled out of the river and they were getting sent into the wells in and around the city, and ponds and lakes. And then they had 150 equestrians that were riding the fields and the trails, clearing them. That's smart. March 31st, a very famous bloodhound that actually found a missing child in the years past was brought in to track from Linda's house to Dorene's. And the dog tracked to 2.5 blocks of within Dorene's house and stopped. Chief said that in all the publicity, and this was everywhere in Northern California, in every newspaper, everybody in Napa knew, nobody saw a girl get in a car in that area between 4:45 and 5. Chief said that he was frustrated because there was such a lack of anything. He said that 100 square miles were searched in that time frame from March 26th to March 31st. They gave it 5 days. And they terminated the search. Police said, "We are up a blind alley. We're looking blindly. Nothing found in the river. No clothing found in the woods. Nobody saw the girl leave the city. Nobody saw the girl get in a car." After her friend saw her turn that corner, she wasn't seen again. April 1st, police said that they are going right back over the tracks that they did before. They're not searching, it's just an investigative process. They said that they brought in another bloodhound and it tracked Dorene to the front of a junior college. The FBI was requested one more time, and they told the chief that they're not interested. There's not enough evidence of a crime. So think about that. Not enough evidence of a crime. The mere absence of evidence would maybe indicate a crime. How can a little girl disappear out of a downtown area without something super unusual happening? Now, you and me and all my followers know what we're talking about, but really? Detectives researched the route that she would have walked. The Hedgpeth family was devastated. There was people interviewed, Mr. and Mrs. Hedgpeth interviewed. They didn't have the words. Mr. Hedgpeth felt guilty he wasn't home. All in all, it was just a horrible scene. Linda Ford's family was devastated. The elementary school where Dorene went to school had special counselors come in. It was a big deal, folks. Now, there was a small amount of activity for the next couple months where people reported seeing Dorene here or there. As with everything, when you broadcast a photo, people come out of the woodwork saying, "Oh yeah, she was here, she was there, we saw her do this," but nobody saw her downtown. Then, a bombshell. A longtime dairy rancher, the Stewart family, lived 4 miles from the Hedgpeth home, south on Highway 101, a super busy 4-lane highway. Their address is 2195 Sonoma Highway. And believe it or not, the Stewart family still owns the homestead and the fields. They grow oats and they raise cattle. So Stewart was growing oats across the 4-lane highway from where he lived. And he was out in the field and he found a body of a little girl. Yes, it was Dorene Hedgpeth. The story gets very strange, folks. Now this field, I'm going to show it to you, is in full view of the busiest highway in Northern California, just about. So this is the Stewart Ranch. Napa is this way. This is his ranch, his farmhouse, and his homestead looks directly across this 4-lane highway into his field. They never stated where exactly in the field this body was located, but here's the river, the Napa River, right here. So you've got the homestead, the highway, the field, and the river. Now, there's so many cars going up and down this road. Even in 1963, it would have been ridiculous. Everyone would have seen anyone in this area doing anything. So keep that in the back of your mind. So Mr. Stewart, growing oats out in the field, finds this body. Calls the sheriff, calls Napa police. They come out. And they describe the body as being face down, with the hands interlaced above or near the left shoulder. They said that the fingers and the bones were interlaced above the left shoulder, face down. Virtually no tissue on the body. Stewart said that the field was cut in the spring and the summer. Police said that the field was searched by helicopter and ground teams multiple times. How Dorene, wearing a bright aqua dress and a white blouse, was not seen is impossible to me. But I'm just saying, it wasn't. Police brought in Stewart and his ranch hands for lengthy interviews and polygraphs. They were 100% completely exonerated and released. They weren't involved. None of the ranch hands nor Stewart saw the child in the field when they were cutting the oats. Police initially stated that if she died of exposure, how did she get there? Of course, that's $1 million question. Now, from her house, this is the Hedgpeth's home. This is the roadway. That's where Stewart's ranch house is at. This is the field. This is the river. Any idea that Dorene walked this is insanity, because that roadway, there would have been 10,000 cars that would have had to have passed her in the time it took her to walk that, and somebody would have reported seeing her. Nobody did. Yes, that is Huck. Police stated that the hay under the body had not been cut when Stewart cut the fields. This is important. Which means to them that the first time it was cut was June 5th. So it had been there since at least June 5th. To reach the location in the field, Mr. Stewart and the deputies and the police all said that she would have had to have gone over multiple fences. The grass in the area was 3 feet high. They also stated that the panties she was wearing were pulled down in the back. Reach down, pull your panties down. Did she have to go to the bathroom? somebody else do that? Were the clothes put on inappropriately or wrong? Now here's the kicker. Police also said that when she was last seen at Linda's house and by her mom, she was wearing shoes and socks. When she was found, she was not wearing shoes and socks. And shoes and socks of hers were never found. The coroner had an inquest, very rare in California. And they called 4 witnesses and 9 jurors. The coroner stated that there was strong evidence that her jaw was broken before death. Pay close attention to this. The coroner stated that the bones in the skull, the feet, the hands, the leg, the arm, and the pelvis were all broken. The jurors were given a choice of died of natural causes, walked out in the field and died of hypothermia, say, or was she murdered? Of course they said she was murdered. Nobody's going to believe she walked out there herself. But how did she get there? The coroner stated that the cause of death may never be known because they couldn't determine it. One time it was stated that the skull was crushed early in the investigation when they found the body. And it was stated that they thought that a cow had stepped on her head post-death, after death. Now, on July 21st, 64, Dorene had her final rites. St. John the Baptist Catholic Church. The pallbearers, they were the 4 primary investigators on this case. Yeah. So the question, these are important questions, folks. Did Dorene walk the 4 miles to the field, down the highway, climb over the fences, walk into the middle of the field and die? Who thinks that? Okay. Another question. Did a murderer drive along Highway 101, get out, grab her body, carry her over a fence, walk through the middle of the field and dump her body in plain view of everybody on the highway? Raise your hand if you think so. Stop there. Napa is surrounded by woods. Not thick woods, but woods. It gets rural very quick. There's absolutely no reason in the world to put yourself in harm's way as a suspect of being seen by doing exactly that in the field. I'm sorry, doesn't make any sense to me. Unknown cause of death. Missing clothing. Missing shoes. The coroner stated that he couldn't substantiate a sexual assault. Case was never solved. Suspect was never arrested. Now I'm gonna let you see something here, and I want you to think hard on this. So, they said her skull was broken. They said that her arms were broken. They said that her hands were fractured or broken. They said her legs were broken. They said that her feet were broken. How do you get that many bones broken? Well, how about dropped from height? Just saying. Just saying. The other part that was a little unusual was the sternum was broken. Now, if she was dropped on her back, I could see that. But they found her face down with her hands clasped like this. So how could the sternum be broken? I suppose if you're dropped high enough, but that doesn't really seem plausible. That's a tough one for me. I'm not sure on that. But I am sure that I don't believe a suspect would put her in that field. The police chief did say that he thought that Dorene was put in that field to be found. Friends, I've said that 100 times about what? Cattle mutilations. Cattle are taken out of a field and things are done to that cattle. It's not done at the scene because there's never any blood at the scene. There's never any tracks at the scene. There's never anything at the scene. And then the cattle are replaced right back in that same field. Why? To be found. Dorene is placed right back in that field. And I think the intention was she was supposed to be found much sooner than she was when the field was cut once, twice. When you think about it, it's kind of a fluke that Mr. Stewart even found the body this time. Now, they said that there was very little tissue on any of the bones. Not unusual. Napa's kind of got a rainy climate. I could see why the tissue would have come off. This case bothered me. It still bothers me. But I think police did a good job. For 1963, I think they did an excellent job. The coroners couldn't say that they thought she was dropped. That wouldn't work. Remember, local reports for local consumption? Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. I think it's a big whodunit. And in fact, some of the articles, even today, talk about what a mystery this is. I think we're getting closer, folks. We're getting closer. Thank you for your time, your patience. Please share this on social media. Go to Kickstarter.com. And don't forget, go to Gather Up Events. Gather Up, one word. Gather Up, one word. And check out the Caribbean Cruise in November. You don't have to pay it all now. You can pay in installments. And you want to go. Thanks. Be safe. And remember to be kind. It's the kindness revolution.